Well, Frankenstein tea again.
Frankenstein tea again.
And look at the weather that we have out there
it's
today.
It's such good tea weather.
It is good tea weather.
Yeah.
We're back to winter.
In April.
In April, yes. Isn't that Vermont?
Yes.
Mm.
And I think maybe it's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it has to be a big thing. It was lovely to have that much snow.
But it sounds like there's going to be good weather on Monday for the eclipse. That's what I'm hearing so far. Knock on wood. Hopefully I didn't
Knock on wood.
jinx
Jeepers.
us.
I haven't even looked. I've just been looking at the last few days.
Yeah.
So Frankenstein Tea is a weekly program from the Aldrich. It started, as many good ideas started in COVID. If you looked for silver linings and creative moments, that's what I used to really try to meditate on. Silver linings and creative moments. That's what got me through COVID. And this is one of them. Frankenstein was a nod to the horrific time we were having, the monster of a time, the monster of a disease. It was also acknowledging public domain and copyright laws and things that I could do on this program at that time. And I thought it was a good time for everybody to take a time out and have some tea and listen to some, literature. So today we're going to bring you literature.
Yes, and also in the public domain.
Also in the public domain. We're going to give you some updates because this program from the Aldrich has now evolved, as all good library programs do, into some updates and Aldrich news. And I'm having regular old Lipton with Vermont honey. Yes.
Ooh, very good.
Delicious.
And I'm having my favorite here, Morning Thunder with the black tea and the roasted mate, which is also very suitable for a day like this.
Yes, very, very nice. And I made mine long enough ago that I can now drink it.
Oh, perfect.
Sometimes we get here and I'm just pouring the water in and then I go to sip it on camera.
So hot.
And I can't. It's so hot. It's too hot, Goldilocks. It's just too hot. So we'll do a few updates. We'd like you to sit back, get your tea, settle in for a moment, because we do have a special treat.
Yes. So Monday is the eclipse. So when I was trying to think of something to do, last week
So good.
you read we read Ray Bradbury, and that was immediately what came to your mind, right?
Yes,
that
right.
Ray Bradbury
Yes,
short story.
yes.
So the first thing that came to my mind was Connecticut, Yankee, and King Arthur's Court by Mark Twain. And it was funny because I hadn't read it since I think maybe 8th grade.
Wow.
So, it's been a long time, so I really had to refresh my memory. But this eclipse scene really stood out vividly in my memory, you know. So I went into our book sale and I found this beautiful edition, and I'm pretty sure we have a copy on the shelf. So if you,
But we might have to keep that nice edition.
we might have to keep this nice edition. Yeah.
It's a nice one.
So, we're going to give it a little read here for you. So just a little bit of a background for you. This happens fairly early on in the story. So this was published in 1889. So definitely in public domain.
Yep.
And presumably it takes place in the 1880s as well. And the main character, Hank, is a Connecticut Yankee in the 1880s. And he is he runs an arms factory. He's an arms mechanic. And he gets into a bit of a disagreement, a bit of a fight with one of his foremen, I think, and he ends up getting clobbered over the head with a crowbar. And he wakes up in the Dark Ages in King Arthur's time. And so this is early on after he's been captured by a knight, and he is in the dungeon and has discovered that he is going to be burned at the stake, presumably as a heretic. So we pick up there in that story. So here we go.
How long have I been shut up in this hole?
You were shut up when yesterday was well spent. It is 9 of the morning now.
No! Then I have slept well, sure enough. 9 in the morning now? And yet it is the very complexion of midnight to a shade? This is the 20th, then.
The 20th, yes.
And I am to be burned alive tomorrow.
The boy shuddered.
At what hour?
At high noon.
Now then, I will tell you what to say. I paused and stood over that cowering lad a whole minute in awful silence. Then, in a voice deep, measured, charged with doom, I began, and rose by dramatically graded stages to my colossal climax, which I delivered in as sublime and noble a way as ever I did such a thing in my life. Go back and tell the king that at that hour I will smother the world in the dead blackness of midnight. I will blot out the sun, and he shall never shine again. The fruits of the earth shall rot for lack of light and warmth, and the peoples of the earth shall famish and die to the last man. I had to carry the boy out myself, he sunk into such a collapse. I handed him over to the soldiers and went back.
The Eclipse. In the stillness and the darkness, realization soon began to supplement knowledge. The mere knowledge of a fact is pale. But when you come to realize your fact, it takes on color. It is all the difference between hearing of a man being stabbed to the heart and seeing it done. In the stillness and the darkness, the knowledge that I was in deadly danger took to itself deeper and deeper meaning all the time. A something which was realization crept inch by inch through my veins and turned me cold. But it is a blessed provision of nature that at times like these, as soon as a man's mercury has got down to a certain point, there comes a revulsion, and he rallies. Hope springs up, and cheerfulness along with it, and then he is in good shape to do something for himself, if anything can be done. When my rally came, it came with a bound. I said to myself that my eclipse would be sure to save me, and make me the greatest man in the kingdom besides. And straightway my mercury went up to the top of the tube, and my solicitudes all vanished. I was as happy a man as there was in the world. I was even impatient for tomorrow to come. I so wanted to gather in that great triumph and be the center of all the nation's wonder and reverence. Besides, in a business way, it would be the making of me. I knew that. Meantime, there was one thing which had got pushed into the background of my mind. That was the half-conviction that when the nature of my proposed calamity should be reported to those superstitious people, it would have such an effect that they would want to compromise. So by and by, when I heard footsteps coming, that thought was recalled to me, and I said to myself, As sure as anything, it's the compromise. Well, if it is good, all right, I will accept. But if it isn't, I mean to stand my ground and play my hand for all it is worth. The door opened, and some men at arms appeared. The leader said, The steak is ready. Come!
The steak? The strength went out of me, and I almost fell down. It is hard to get one's breath at such a time. Such lumps come into one's throat, and such gaspings. But as soon as I could speak, I said, But this is a mistake. The execution is tomorrow.
Order changed. Been set for today. Haste thee.
I was lost. There was no help for me. I was dazed, stupefied. I had no command over myself. I only wandered purposelessly about, like one out of his mind. So the soldiers took hold of me and pulled me along with them, out of the cell and along the maze of underground corridors, and finally into the fierce glare of daylight and the upper world. As we stepped into the vast, enclosed court of the castle, I got a shock, for the first thing I saw was the stake, standing in the center, and near it the piled faggots and a monk. On all four sides of the court, the seated multitudes rose, rank above rank, forming sloping terraces that were rich with color. The king and the queen sat in their thrones, the most conspicuous figures there, of course. To note all this occupied but a second. The next second, Clarence had slipped from some place of concealment and was pouring news into my ear, his eyes beaming with triumph and gladness. He said,
"'Tis through me the change was wrought. Main hard have I worked to do it too. But when I revealed to them the calamity in store, and saw how mighty was the terror it did engender, then saw I also that this was the time to strike. Wherefore I diligently pretended unto this and that and the other one, that your power against the sun could not reach its full until the morrow. And so, if any would save the sun and the world, you must be slain today, while your enchantments are but in the weave and lack potency. Odds bodikins! It was but a dull lie, a most indifferent invention, but you should have seen them seize it and swallow it in the frenzy of their fright, as it were salvation sent from heaven. And all the while was I laughing in my sleeve the one moment, to see them so cheaply deceived, and glorifying God the next, that he was content to let the meanest of his creatures be his instrument to the saving of thy life. Ah, how happy has the matter sped! You will not need to do the sun a real hurt. Ah, forget not that. On your soul forget it not. Only make a little darkness, only the littlest little darkness, mind, and cease with that. It will be sufficient. They will see that I spoke falsely, being ignorant, as they will fancy, and with the falling of the first shadow of that darkness, you shall see them go mad with fear, and they will set you free and make you great. Go to thy triumph now, but remember, good friend, I implore thee remember my supplication, and do the blessed sun no hurt. For my sake, thy true friend.
I choked out some words through my grief and misery, as much as to say I would spare the sun, for which the lad's eyes paid me back with such deep and loving gratitude that I had not the heart to tell him his good-hearted foolishness had ruined me and sent me to my death. As the soldiers assisted me across the court, the stillness was so profound that if I had been blindfold, I should have supposed I was in a solitude instead of a walled in by 4,000 people. There was not a movement perceptible in those masses of humanity. They were as rigid as stone images, and as pale, and dread sat upon every countenance. This hush continued while I was being chained to the stake. It still continued while the faggots were carefully and tediously piled about my ankles, my knees, my thighs, my body. Then there was a pause and a deeper hush, if possible, and a man knelt down at my feet with a blazing torch. The multitude strained forward, gazing and parting slightly from their seats without knowing it. The monk raised his hands above my head and his eyes toward the blue sky and began some words in Latin. In this attitude he droned on and on a little while and then stopped. I waited 2 or 3 moments, then looked up. He was standing there, petrified. With a common impulse, the multitude rose slowly up and stared into the sky. I followed their eyes. As sure as guns, there was my eclipse beginning. The life went boiling through my veins. I was a new man. The rim of black spread slowly into the sun's disk. My heart beat higher and higher, and still the assemblage and the priest stared into the sky, motionless. I knew that this gaze would be turned upon me next. When it was, I was ready. I was in one of the most grand attitudes I ever struck, with my arms stretched up, pointing to the sun. It was a noble effect. You could see the shudder sweep the mass like a wave. 2 shouts rang out, one close upon the heels of the other.
Apply the torch! I forbid it! The one was from Merlin, the other from the king. Merlin started from his place to apply the torch himself. I judged. I said,
Stay where you are. If any man moves, even the king, before I give him leave, I will blast him with thunder. I will consume him with lightnings.
The multitude sank meekly into their seats, and I was just expecting they would. Merlin hesitated a moment or two, and I was on pins and needles that while. Then he sat down, and I took a good breath, for I knew I was master of the situation now. The king said, Be merciful, fair sir, and essay no further in this perilous matter, lest disaster follow. It was reported to us that your powers could not attain unto their full strength until the morrow, but...
Your Majesty thinks the report may have been a lie? It was a lie.
That made an immense effect. Up went appealing hands everywhere, and the king was assailed with a storm of supplications that I might be bought off at any price, and the calamity stayed. The king was eager to comply. He said, "Name many terms, reverend sir, even to the having of my kingdom, but banish this calamity, spare the sun." My fortune was made. I would have taken him up in a minute, but I couldn't stop an eclipse. The thing was out of the question, so I asked time to consider. The king said, "How long? How long, good sir? Be merciful. Look, it groweth darker, moment by moment. Prithee, how long?"
Not long. Half an hour, maybe an hour. There were 1,000 pathetic protests, but I couldn't shorten up any, for I couldn't remember how long a total eclipse lasts. I was in a puzzled condition anyway, and I wanted to think. Something was wrong about that eclipse, and the fact was very unsettling. If this wasn't the one I was after, how was I to tell whether this was the 6th century or nothing but a dream? Dear me, if I could only prove it was the latter. Here was a glad new hope. If the boy was right about the date, and this was surely the 20th, it wasn't the 6th century. I reached for the monk's sleeve in considerable excitement and asked him what day of the month it was. "Hang him," he said it was the 21st. It made me turn cold to hear him. I begged him not to make any mistake about it, but he was sure. He knew it was the 21st. So that feather-headed boy had botched things again. The time of the day was right for the eclipse. I had seen that for myself in the beginning by the dial that was nearby. Yes, I was in King Arthur's court, and I might as well make the most of it if I could. The darkness was steadily growing, the people becoming more and more distressed. I now said, "I have reflected, Sir King. For a lesson, I will let this darkness proceed and spread night in the world. But whether I blot out the sun for good or restore it shall rest with you. These are the terms, to wit. You shall remain king over all your dominions and receive all the glories and honors that belong to the kingship. But you shall appoint me your perpetual minister and executive, and give me for my services 1% of such actual increase of revenue over and above its present amount as I may succeed in creating for the state. I can't live on that. I shan't ask anybody to give me a lift. Is it satisfactory?"
There was a prodigious roar of applause, and out of the midst of it the king's voice rose, saying, "Away with his bonds and set him free, and do him homage, high and low, rich and poor, for he is become the king's right hand, is clothed with power and authority, and his seat is upon the highest step of the throne. Now sweep away this creeping night, and bring the light and cheer again, that all the world may bless thee."
But I said, that a common man should be shamed before the world is nothing. But it were dishonor to the king if any that saw his minister naked should not also see him delivered from his shame. If I might ask that my clothes be brought again.
"They are not meet," the king broke in. "Fetch raiment of another sort. Clothe him like a prince." My idea worked. I wanted to keep things as they were till the eclipse was total. Otherwise, they would be trying again to get me to dismiss the darkness, and of course, I couldn't do it. Sending for the clothes gained some delay, but not enough, so I had to make another excuse. I said it would be but natural if the king should change his mind and repent to some extent of what he had done under excitement. Therefore, I would let the darkness grow a while, and if at the end of a reasonable time the king had kept his mind the same, the darkness should be dismissed. Neither the king nor anybody else was satisfied with that arrangement, but I had to stick to my point.
It grew darker and darker, and blacker, while I struggled with those awkward 6th century clothes. It got to be pitch dark at last, and the multitude groaned with horror to feel the cold, uncanny night breezes fan through the place and see the stars come out and twinkle in the sky. At last the eclipse was total, and I was very glad of it, but everybody else was in misery, which was quite natural. I said, "The king, by his silence, still stands to the terms. Then I lifted up my hand, stood just so for a moment. Then I said with the most awful solemnity, let the enchantment dissolve and pass harmless away.
There was no response for a moment, in that deep darkness and that graveyard hush. But when the silver rim of the sun pushed itself out, a moment or two later, the assemblage broke loose with a vast shout and came pouring down like a deluge to smother me with blessings and gratitude. And Clarence was not the last of the wash, to be sure. So there we are. Your reading of A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court by Mark Twain, 1889. Yeah.
Chapter entitled The Eclipse.
The Eclipse, yes.
Thank you, Ian.
Thank you, Kristen.
Well, no, you knew that one. So fun for us to share literature. Ray Bradbury and now Mark Twain,
And
we're such good librarians.
Yeah. And it's kind of fun to come back to literature that you haven't read since middle grade.
Well, that's how I felt about Ray Bradbury last week.
When was the last time that you had read that one?
Middle school.
Middle school.
I don't think it was high school. I think it was middle school.
Was your impression different of the story now?
No, I remembered it. What resonated with me then still did.
Yeah.
It was still that memory. That it was visceral, that memory. Yeah. But this one.
Oh yeah.
That it's total eclipse. And so tell me, does he just know when all the eclipses are from history? What is he doing?
I know. So yeah. Well, one thing that definitely struck me in reading it or rereading, was gosh, how condescending he is towards the medieval times, and also kind of the imperialist kind of vibe also comes through. You know? We have all this science and technology, and we know better.
And they'll be fooled.
They'll be fooled. They're so superstitious.
Yeah. They'll just be fooled. I will make this happen.
Yeah. So I think that's just fortuitous, isn't it? That he just happens to know, that there's going to be an eclipse. Well, it
makes a good story.
But the funny thing was when I was doing some research into the background of this story. Mark Twain was really interested in astronomy.
Oh.
So he did know. The year that he was, the Mark Twain was born was when Halley's Comet reappeared, and apparently towards the end of his life, he was really hoping that Halley's Comet would be appearing again the year that he died, which it did. It's kind of interesting that the eclipse is such a focal point in this book. But.
Well done.
Well, thank you very much.
Done.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was great.
It was also interesting to read it, in light of reading the Once and Future King and other King Arthur literature, and have you read that one, T.H. White?
Once and Future King, yes. But my favorite, and I can't think of it now, is the Morgan Le Fay, the woman's one.
Oh, Mists of Avalon. They're so good.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
In all of those, you always know how it's going to end because it's King Arthur. King Arthur's going to get killed by Mordred, and things are all going to fall apart. You know, and even in spite of all this science and technology and democratic values that he tries to introduce in the Dark Ages, it still ends up ending the exact same way. And in fact, I remember
the tragedy.
It is quite dark. And reading it now and knowing that it was written in 1889, not long after the Civil War.
Right.
You really see that because there are inventions like the Gatling gun that could deal mass death.
Right.
And
that's dark.
Yeah. And so
that war was bloody and gruesome.
Yeah. So introducing technology and science didn't make things any better actually in this story. It ends up the exact same way. And in fact maybe darker. Yeah. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, and we have a lot of technology and science now being battled, right? Yeah, being battled. Being we don't care about your technology and science.
Yeah. So, but I hope people will go back and give it a read. But
don't look for this copy in the book sale. We're going to keep it.
Yes. And it's a satire, so it's a lot of fun. It's really funny because he's really sending up a whole idea of chivalry and Le Morte d'Arthur and things are really miserable, really.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, yeah, I hope you guys will go back and reread some Mark Twain, reread Connecticut, Yankee, and King Arthur's Court.
And if you want that chapter, it's called The Eclipse.
The Eclipse, yep.
All right, so a couple of announcements. Not too many. I just wanted to do a little plug for yoga for kiddos. It's Tuesdays at 10:30. Ian was kind enough to offer me a story time slot.
Yeah.
And we are building a little audience there.
Yeah.
Little?
Yeah, I got a little audience, literally.
They're having fun, and I love to do that program. I like to connect with the kids and parents and caregivers through that program. And I'm starting to know those kids, and I've had a lot of moments this week about knowing those kids as they grow.
You're having regulars now.
I have regulars,
and some of them,
I know their names.
Yes, and some of them, and I won't mention any names, but some of them have a lot of energy in story time, and I'm noticing that they actually are better able to settle down for story time. So it's good.
The yoga is real.
It is, yeah.
The yoga is real. Yeah. So that's Tuesdays at 10:30. Everybody in the room does the yoga, so if you want to come, you'll get a little yoga out of it. I love, and that's something that I tell parents and caregivers too. Your kid may be this is going to be new to them, right? They're running around the room. We let them do their thing. This is space where they have to get used to us. But them watching their caregiver take care of themselves is really powerful.
Yeah.
Really, really powerful. So you do have to do the yoga if you come, but it's doable. And
I quite enjoy it, actually.
Yeah,
really
exactly.
Nice.
I was going to say it's doable and it's fun. And then I'm going to plug, we have a movie night next Saturday, so a week from tomorrow, Saturday, April 13th, at 2 o'clock it's going to start. And this is a Vermont filmmaker, and it's called The Farm Boy. And I think it seems to me, as someone new here in this territory, this is a big deal that we have this film. This is a big deal. People know who this is. They're looking forward to this. We're going to fill the room here. Doesn't mean you shouldn't come. They're bringing equipment, so we're going to have good sound and good visuals. We have a good screen. I think our chairs are pretty comfy.
Yeah.
I think those are good movie chairs. So check more social media posts for this, or mark it on your calendar now. Next Saturday, 2 o'clock, The Farm Boy, a George Woodard film. I'll read this.
Great way to spend the Saturday.
Yeah, The Farm Boy is a heart-stirring love story and a thrilling adventure. In December of 1944, the war rages on in Europe. Leaving his new bride behind, Cavan Dillard is shipped to Belgium and thrown into what would become known as the Battle of the Bulge. He now faces a riveting adventure on a path that will test his strength and integrity. And after the film, there'll be a Q&A with the director.
Lovely.
Yeah, big deal. So I'm going to plug those two.
Yeah, and then last of all, I think we definitely want to plug the Eclipse.
Here it is. Here we go.
Yeah, so we're going to be having an Eclipse party this coming Monday, April 8th. It's going to start at 2 o'clock down in the Milne Community Room. And we'll have up on the big screen, the projector screen, the NASA live broadcast of the eclipse. So even if we don't have very good weather, you'll be able to watch it down there on the big screen. But so far, it's looking like there might be good weather. So we won't say that too loudly. Knock on wood.
Let's see. Yep.
So, but so we should have a small quantity of glasses as well. So if you have your glasses, make sure you bring them.
Make sure you bring them.
Yep.
Or pick some up today or tomorrow.
Today or tomorrow. Yes.
We'll have some on Monday. We're not sure how many. We're actually counting them.
Yep.
To make sure that everybody gets them.
Yep. So the I believe the form is still up on our website. So if you need glasses, make sure you click on that and reserve your glasses.
Yep.
We'll be making pinhole projectors so kids can watch the eclipse that way without looking directly at the sun. We'll be talking about solar safety, which is going to be an important thing. And if kids want to make those pinhole projectors, they should bring a cereal box. But if not, 2 pieces of paper and aluminum foil and a little push pin, that will do the trick, and they can watch it on the ground. So it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So, hope you guys will come 2 to 4:30.
I feel like, so there's been such talk in Vermont about this eclipse.
Yes.
Right? People are coming here.
Yep.
There's not a hotel room in the state.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
All this chatter. I think that's very real.
Yeah.
We have so many people working in here, working remote today.
Yes.
I think they're already here.
Yes.
For the weekend.
I think so.
Yeah. We have all kinds of people working in this building, and I think it's because they're visiting for the eclipse.
Yep.
Or they came to ski because we got pounded with snow.
And I've got to share a little anecdote with you,
Okay.
a really amusing anecdote. So I was chatting with Jonathan Clark from the Department of Libraries. He's our youth services representative for the entire state of Vermont. And I was saying, well, there are people, who travel all around because, sure, it's the total eclipse here in Vermont and in the United States, but, every year there are places in the world on Earth that experience the total eclipse, and so conceivably you could go around and experience the total eclipse every year.
I think I saw some stuff about Texas, right? I think in Texas it was recent. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So
you could travel around.
You could travel around anywhere on the planet and experience a partial
and
or
banish
total
the sun.
eclipse. Yeah, again and again and again. Now I was chatting with Jonathan. I said, there's going to be a name. What are those people called? The people who travel around to watch the eclipse every year. He said, rich.
Welcome to Vermont.
Welcome to Vermont.
That Taurus scholar,
Such a great answer. Yeah.
Great.
So
do you have an inside scoop on whether we're getting any special equipment?
I don't know yet. So we will have some staff from Vermont Department of Libraries who are going to be coming down to help and support, and they may be bringing some special equipment. There are some special binoculars you can get with a filter, and there are also special telescopes that you can get with a filter. So just a reminder that you should not look at the sun or the eclipse using regular binoculars or regular telescopes unless you have the filter.
Or your sunglasses.
Don't use your sunglasses. Your sunglasses
or your glasses with something over them. None of that.
No.
We have glasses. We still have some. It's getting slimmer.
Yeah.
We have some, and we are telling everybody to share. So
yes.
Everybody can stay safe.
Yes. I mean, in fact, unless you have welding goggles of the right filtration, you're not going to be able to use anything but these glasses to look directly at the sun. So it's very important.
And I have to say that I kind of enjoy it without looking at the sun.
Oh yeah,
because it gets dark.
Oh yeah,
and it gets shadowy.
Well, so yeah,
the glasses are one part of it.
They're one part of it. Yeah.
We don't have to look at the sun to experience it.
Right. Yeah.
So if that's what you feel safe with, which is what I feel safe with. Not because I don't trust the glasses, it's just what I prefer. I like to look at the shadows and I love to watch the people experiencing it, so.
And listen to animals experiencing it as well, because the animals are confused as well.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think everybody's confused right now. I do. Those birds, when I was shoveling out this morning, because I had to start early, were singing away, and there's 2 feet of snow on the ground, and they don't know what to do. It's a good thing I put a bird feeder out. We had an earthquake. The birds are going crazy. The birds are going crazy. Yeah. We had an earthquake.
Yep.
We had a crazy snowstorm.
Yep.
I think things are happening.
That's right.
Let's get through this eclipse.
These poor animals, they're so confused by what's going on. Yeah, earthquakes, snowstorms, losing the sun. What's going on?
What's going on?
We're asking that of ourselves every day.
Yeah.
What's going on?
So let's do a little mental health check-in as we do that. We encourage you to take care of yourself through this program. As I mentioned at the introduction, this was a COVID program, so it definitely had a mental health component that we carry forward now, and that is that we come from a place of no stigma and no shame around mental health issues and crises. And we want you to be well, and so when we're sick, we go to a doctor. So be well. Do what you need to do to carry on for your good mental health, and to avoid mental illness. If you have mental illness, then you deal from there, right? But and it's always multi-pronged, right? It's never just take your med, right? It's take your med and exercise. Take your med, exercise, and see your doctor. Take your med, exercise, see your doctor, and talk to your family. Take your med, exercise, see your doctor, talk to your family, go outside, right? So it's always multi-pronged mental health, and so we encourage that here. And we do a little mental health check-in, and we're going to do it by memory today. It is, and these are suggestions, not commands or demands, but we suggest that you take a shower and brush your teeth, eat a good meal, drink enough water, talk to a family member or a friend, think kind thoughts about yourself and others, exercise your body, get some fresh air, read a good book.
Read a good book. Yes. Lovely.
Lovely. And onward we go.
And onward we go.
To the eclipse.
To the eclipse,
Here
yes.
we go.
Well, until Monday and the eclipse party, stay safe.
Keep reading.
Keep reading. And we'll see you at the eclipse.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for coming.